So we are starting with a little bit about Fourlane and what makes us unique. First, we are the #1 QuickBooks Enterprise team. We are proud to have 8 of the top 100 pro advisors on our team. We're also experts in accounting and software, so we are able to support the ERP software and as well as accounting. We are strong consultants for QuickBooks, but we also provide service for NetSuite, Xero, and Acumatica. So we have more than just QuickBooks to offer consulting with. And we are also a strategic partner for change management. So we've been there and have helped hundreds of companies go through changes, and we are here to walk you through them as easily as possible. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and jump in. So today we are talking about 1099s. Need to stop for a moment, just give a little bit of a disclaimer. The information is for general information purposes. It does not constitute any legal, financial, or tax advice. If you have any questions, we strongly recommend you consult with a qualified tax professional or accountant to discuss your specific situation. Everyone's situation is different. IRS laws change, so it's important to consult with them. Okay, in general, what is a 1099? In short, a 1099 is a form that is given to the government to let them know that money has been earned. Okay, similar to like a W-2, but this is more for like your freelancers, subcontractors, people who are not official W-2 employees. It could also be used to report dividends, interests, and other miscellaneous income. In short, if you made money, the government wants to know about it, and this is one of their ways of doing it. There's a couple different types of forms. Just want to alert you to, the NEC is a pretty new form. I think it was since 2020. That is the main form that we use to report income earned by non-employees. Your 1099 miscellaneous is used to report things such as like rental income, royalties, attorney fees, that kind of thing. The DIV is for dividends received. The INT is for interest income earned. All right, so when do you need to do this? Well, I know you're sitting here, as a business professional, and you're thinking, okay, great, we've got these 1099s, but do I really need to do it? Well, the answer is, well, it depends. Have you paid anybody over $600 that's not an employee? First thing to kind of ask yourself, right? Particularly, we're talking services. So if your business has paid an independent contractor, a freelancer, consultant, $600 or more for any services rendered through the year, you're most likely going to be needing to issue that 1099. Okay. One thing I want to mention here is not to get too hung up on subcontractor work or independent contractor. A lot of my clients will come to me and say, we don't have any subcontractors, we don't owe anything or owe any 1099s, but after further discussion, they realize they do because they're getting hung up on the name. Anybody who's providing a service to your business, okay, and I'm not talking employees, but a service. It doesn't necessarily have to be subcontractor. It could be someone repairing a refrigerator, it could be someone repairing a roof, someone coming and cleaning your office, someone who's done some marketing for you, someone who's repaired your business vehicle. In short, anybody who has provided any service of any kind that totals $600 or more during a given year is potentially due a 1099, okay? Now, sometimes you'll have some incidentals. For example, marketing. So maybe you have someone who offered marketing consultation to you, which is a service, but they also did some copywriting. If that was all put together on their invoice, all that needs to be included and reported on. Other than the independent contractors, if you paid rent, you're going to most likely need to file a 1099. If your business paid $10 or more in interest or dividends to someone during the tax year, may need to issue a 1099. Legal services, if you've paid attorneys more than $600, you're gonna need to do a 1099. Healthcare payments, if your business pays at least $600 in healthcare payments, that may cause that. Crop insurance, fishing boat proceeds, royalties. If you pay more than $10 in royalties, you'll need to issue it. Obviously, it's going to be really important that your books are up to date and these records are kept tight, because this does need to get reported to the IRS, and you'll definitely want to make sure you have your ducks in a row in backing up the amounts and such. I will say also that this is just meant to be a summary, a generalized summary to help people understand. If you go to the 1099 information form, there's a lot of words on it. It's pretty detailed, and there's exceptions to exceptions to exceptions, literally. So there's a lot going on with that. So keep in mind, this is just meant to be a generalized summary to kind of give you a guide. One thing I want to mention here, when you go to pay these individuals, like you're going to pay an independent contractor, for example, before you pay them that first time, you want to make sure you collect a W-9 form. A W-9 form will have them spell out their business name, their contact information, their legal entity type, tax ID. All that information is needed for you and to determine whether or not you need to file a 1099, and if so, to have the information that you need to process it. So it's very important that you have that on hand for anybody who potentially may reach that threshold. I will tell you from personal experience, it's a whole lot harder to get this information from somebody in January than it is before you pay them the first time. So, Michelle, okay, great. So I'm supposed to do these 1099s. I just don't have the time, or I just can't do that. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that it is compliance. You're required to by the government, and they do enforce it with penalties. Okay, and they can get expensive depending on the number of 1099s you failed to report. So this is not something that you just want to bypass. It's important that this be addressed. We kind of talked about this through, just to revisit this again. Non-employee compensation is what we're looking for the most part, all right? $600 or more in services, including incidentals paid to sole proprietors, independent contractors, partnerships. This is important because people get this confused sometimes too. An LLC that is being treated as a partnership, a C Corp or S Corp for federal tax purposes, right? That's going to be there as well. And disregarded entities not owned by corporations, right? And mind you, the LLC could also be treated as a sole proprietor. So you might want to just go ahead and get the LLCs taken care of too. Now, there are some exceptions. Like I said, there's exceptions to exceptions. But the big one is that corporations do not require a 1099 in general. I would suggest that even if a business goes by John Smith Inc., the Inc., INC, that you don't just assume that INC is a verified incorporation. Still need to get that W-9 to verify it, okay? There are some exceptions to that exception, like attorneys. Attorneys don't get that exception. Whether or not they're corporations, you still need to file. Another exception is for employees. If you have employees and their wages are reported on a W-2, then you're not filing a 1099, okay? The threshold is $600, so if you've paid less than that to someone, then you don't have to do that. Again, with some exceptions. Another good one to keep in mind is if you've made payments to that person using a credit card or through like PayPal, such thing, then generally you're not going to need to report that on a 1099, right? Payments to real estate agents involved in rental transactions are exempt. Certain government payments and certain tax-exempt organizations may be exempt. Reimbursements for travel and other business expenses are generally not reported. Keep in mind the important thought here is reimbursement, okay? It's not an expense to the business, it's a reimbursement, so to speak. So I said that wrong. It is an expense, but we're reimbursing them for that expense. Okay. Payments to tax-exempt organizations like charities are usually exempt. Again, I'd also encourage you, make sure you get the W-9, even if you're something that you believe is going to be tax-exempt, like a church or a ministry, get the W-9 and make sure you have it on file. Payments for merchandise, storage, freight, commissions are generally not reported. So for example, if you are buying product for your business, right, or you're purchasing inventory, you're purchasing those goods, that is not something that's generally going to be reported on a 1099. All right, again, need to keep everybody reminded that tax laws change and things can be revised, so it's always important to double check with your tax professional. So when do we have to have this done? January 31st is the date. That's the one that you need to think about. So these forms need to go out to the recipient by the 31st of January, which means your books need to be finalized and up to date in order to have those final numbers. So that's important to keep that in the forefront of your mind as January is approaching. Okay, I'm getting ready to jump into the desktop wizard. Before I do, let me just let you know there's a few things that you need to kind of keep track of. Company information, which vendors are going to require 1099s, which accounts and then payment types matter. Now I am going to pull over, show. Hold on, let me pull this up. Here we go. Now I'm jumping real quick into desktop. I'm going to take you quickly through the wizard. First thing, preferences. You want to come in there and you want to select tax 1099, company preferences, yes for filing the 1099 forms. After that, you can come into vendors, jump into 1099s. The next place I recommend you go is to review your 1099 vendors, okay? You'll see this is going to provide you a list of all your vendors, and you'll note it says eligible for 1099. So right here is what you want to take a look at. So this is the first place you're going to go to identify whether or not this person should be a 1099 vendor. So look at who they are they eligible? If they are, make sure you click on it and edit it here. Once you have this list, now you're ready to get started. So we will jump back in and go to print right here. You'll see that desktop will allow you to do the 1099 NEC and also the 1099 miscellaneous. Let's go ahead and get started on the NEC. The next thing that comes up are the vendors. Those vendors that were identified as yes is eligible are showing up here. This is another opportunity for you to identify that yes, we do in fact want to send it to these people. All right, you select them and then continue. The next thing that you need to do is verify your information. This is the specific information for the two vendors that I identified. The tax ID and the address are required in this field. So you have to make sure that at least those boxes are complete. The next thing you're going to come to is mapping the accounts. In other words, these vendors only showed up under our job expenses subcontractors field. Okay, that sounds good. So we need to know where do we want those job expenses to get mapped to. Most of the time, it's going to be your box 1, non-employee compensation. If you have a lot and they all need to go to, you can just select that and it will automatically change it. Note, if you need to omit it, you can omit it as well. If there's additional accounts that aren't showing here and you think they should be, you could go here and say show all accounts, and then everything is going to show. Okay, again, this is to map the specific account to the box. All right, the next thing are the payments. So remember I said that credit cards are not typically included. So you could see if we do view included payments, it will show, and we don't have any on those 2 particular samples. And if there's any excluded, they're going to show here as well. So if you're not sure why something isn't showing or something's not adding up, take a look and see what payments are included. Your next step is going to be to confirm the entries. Again, this is a sample file, so there's not a whole lot of data. These particular vendors didn't have anything. But if they had, this is where everything is going to be. It's going to tell you what's included, make sure everything's mapped and totals out. And continue. And that's the conclusion of it. Your last piece is either to print or to use an e-file service. The printing the form, you have to purchase the forms to print them on. You can't just print on plain paper. Okay, you can order through Intuit if you want, or you can just go to an office supply store, but you do need to have the forms. You can go to a 1099 e-file service. There are a charge that apply. I believe right now it's something like $2 or $3 per form, and this is done now through Tax 1099. So Intuit has integrated with that. If you go into the e-file service, it will take you into tax1099.com, where it'll take you through another wizard to map everything over, bring everything over where you can electronically file. One quick little thing I want to bring up. I know we need to end this, but so we established this. Note that if you are mapping those accounts for your 1099 NEC, and now you're coming over here to do a 1099 miscellaneous, you cannot use the same account. So each account can only be mapped to one form, okay? So one thing to know, but you could see, you could do the 1099 NECs here, and you could do the 1099 miscellaneous. You can make sure you keep your summary report or detail report to show you everything that you've got going on, as well as backup with your 1099s. And with that, we'll go ahead and call it. And if you guys have any questions, let me go back on over to our screen and finish this up. Here's our steps that we walked through. We've got a couple more webinars coming up this year. Next week will be accounts receivable. Then we'll do a year-end close. In the beginning of year, we're going to jump into journal entries.